this is the Indiana Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Trust Fund Committee virtual meeting of Thursday, February 3rd, 2022. Thank goodness we know how to do these things virtually. So thank you all for tuning in. So we didn't have to reschedule this. Who all's here? I'd like to know.
Are you referencing the committee?
Yeah, well, both.
Well, hi, y'all. My name is Tiffany Hammond. I am from Newbie, and we work in vehicle to grid technology, and we help electric school bus fleets electrify. And I'm the grants manager. So I do it all from the ground up and help our clients. And I am very grateful that y'all are doing this webinar. So thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Ryan Jacobs. I'm an account executive at Ozinga Energy, and we're here to learn a little bit about the opportunities here. We install EV chargers all over Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and also CNG and RNG is our bread and butter. So.
Good morning. My name is Bob Spatz. I'm with Carbon Day EV Charging. We are one of the top charge point channel partners across the country, and we work with a variety of locations, anything from Alaska to Florida. So, and our strength is here. We're located out of Chicago, and our strength is here in the Midwest.
Well, I see a lot of you here, so I know you can speak up.
Ron Rackensous, Indiana Department of Environmental Management Commissioner.
And I would like to say that our new commissioner is new since our last meeting. And so welcome, Brian. I've worked with Brian for more years than we want to count, probably. But congratulations, and we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Beverly. I'm Stacy Milheiser. I'm with Lockmuller Group out of Evansville, Indiana, and we are a design firm who is here to help consult our clients, municipal, as well as all private and industrial facilities, on how to begin their process of transitioning over to charging stations to help in this endeavor. And I'm here to learn more about what's happening.
I'm John Truckenbrode from EV Energy. We're a Chicago headquartered EVSE supplier of both level 2 and DC fast chargers. We've got a variety of chargers and networks to operate them. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Senator Gard, this is Reggie Henderson. I'm with Telemon Energy. We are based in Carmel, Indiana, and we specialize in development and also EV charging.
Okay.
Well, hi, I'm Donna Brown. I'm a grant writer at Ball State University in Muncie, and I'm attending these meetings to stay informed about potential opportunities to help us improve our fleet.
Hi, my name is Tim Hardigan. I'm with Gasoline Equipment. We're based in Fort Wayne, have a shop down in Indianapolis as well, and we're an installer of EV chargers.
Okay, any more interested citizens, and then we'll go to the board, the committee.
Well, I'm Kevin White. I'm with the city of Carmel.
Okay.
And that's it.
Hi, Beverly. Dave Dorsett, Curlin Bus Sales, based out of Warsaw, Silver Lake area. I am located in Martinsville, Indiana, and we encourage and trying to promote more electric school buses in the state of Indiana.
Hello, Beverly. My name is Jeremy Pennyman. I'm a Telemon Energy. I also work with Reggie as well.
Okay.
the Indiana Office of the Utility Consumer Counselor.
My name is Brittany Rudick. I work with Motive Power Systems. We are an EV OEM, and I'm hoping today to be able to assist our potential clientele in the Indiana area. By the way, I manage most of the grant writing and tracking of awarded funding. Sorry, left that out.
Caleb Loveman with the Indiana Office of Utility Consumer Counselor.
What about board members?
Sure, Guard. This is Dave Roberts, IEDC present.
Hi, Dave. Did you come all the way from New Palestine today, or are you home?
No, we're sitting at home, staying safe. Thank you.
Hi, Son of God. This is Reginald Jones.
Hi, Reginald.
Afternoon, Jordan Sager with the Department of Ag is here.
Hello, this is Jody Peacock with the Ports of Indiana.
And Kay Nelson will be on a little bit later. The Commissioner of Transportation is not here. He's probably on the snow.
I do believe that Mr. Baranik is on as well, if I believe I saw his name. Bill, did you join?
Yes, I am here, Scott.
Hi, Bill. Anybody else? Then we'll move on. There's Scott. You want to introduce yourself and tell them your role?
Yeah, my name is Scott Deloney. I'm with IDEM's Office of Air Quality, and I work within the air programs branch, and we have a team of folks here that have been working on this program for the past several years, including Sean and myself.
Yeah, I thought I saw Sean, and he's there, Andy.
Yep, there is.
Yep.
Okay. Ryan, you want to explain to us how this works?
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks for everyone for joining us today. I'm Ryan Clem, Communications Director for IDEM. We will be taking questions and comments from the public today at today's meeting. If you have a question or issue during the presentation, please use the raise hand or chat feature. And as a reminder, to access those features, you go to the menu bar, either the top or bottom of your screen, where you see a chat icon and also the raise hand option. So please utilize these two options, the raise hand or chat features, if you have any questions or comments, and you'll be called upon at the appropriate time. For those joining by phone, if you have a question or comment, you can also raise your hand by pressing *9. And when called upon, you'll need to unmute your phone by pressing *6. And for everybody in today's meeting, if you'll please identify yourself when you're speaking. If any members of the media have joined us, please utilize the chat feature or email media@idem.in.gov if you have any questions. The meeting is being recorded and will be posted on IDEM's Volkswagen Trust website. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chairwoman Gard.
Okay, well, the first item on the agenda is a project implementation status report by IDEM. And you all will excuse me, I have a cold, so hopefully my voice holds up.
It's the season. I'll go ahead and share screen and we can get started.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. At this point, everyone should see the agenda for the day. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes.
All right then. So today, glad to see and hear everyone on a somewhat treacherous travel day. So for those that are on the roads, be careful. For those that are on the screens, glad to see you and have you here. We're going to quickly go through the project implementation update, kind of where we are on different portions of the Volkswagen Mitigation Trust program. Then we'll kind of roll through into the decision-making part of this particular meeting. As always, we are going to be bringing some recommendations to the Volkswagen committee for our round 3 DERA option program. Then we'll talk a little bit about what we think 2022 is going to look like in perspective. Then we'll open it up for comments, and then we shall be done. This should be a pretty efficient meeting, I do believe. So with that, let me click on my screen, take it over, and we should be good to go. All righty. For those that don't know, my name is Sean Seals. I am kind of the point person for all things diesel and Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Trust at IDEM. All of the programs through Volkswagen have kind of run through our team, and I tend to be the face and voice of the presentation side of the work at least. So let's quickly just kind of run through, if we will, rounds 1 through 3 of the on-road and non-road projects. For those that are kind of new to the game, just a very short background, we broke the Volkswagen funding down into different programs. One of the programs is the on-road and non-road program, which follows very strictly the limitations, if you will, of the environmental mitigation actions that are dictated within the consent decree. Another part of the program is the DERA option program, and that allows us some more flexibility to do some other things where maybe transitioning to electric alternatives isn't really viable for folks in certain industries. And then the third primary component is the EV infrastructure program. So I'll be giving updates on all of those, and then we'll kind of get into the round 3 recommendations. But we have actually completed the first 3 rounds of our on-road and non-road program. So to date, in those 3 rounds, we have received 125 applications. Of those 125 applications, we did award 82 projects. And 33 of those 82 projects are now complete. And for the purposes of this presentation, when I say a project is complete, what that really means is the project is literally complete. They have submitted to IDEM all of the necessary paperwork to get their reimbursement from the Volkswagen and Mitigation Trust. And I have submitted those documents to the trust. So those are the 33 projects you see here, and the ones that we talk about as completed are ones that have been completed and submitted to the trustee for reimbursement back to our grant partners. Now, in the first 2 rounds, we've had several projects have come through to completion. This is not an all-inclusive list, but just kind of a snapshot of the types of things that we have accomplished through the first couple rounds of those that have been completed. We have replaced 117 school buses so far. About a handful of those have been electric school buses. The great majority of those school buses have been propane-powered school buses, which are fantastic NOx emission reduction projects, resulting in anywhere from mid to upper 90% NOx reductions, which is ultimately the goal of the Environmental Mitigation Trust itself. We have also done 11 transit bus replacements. The majority of those to date have been compressed natural gas transit buses. We do have a couple electric transit buses in that complete list. And we also have some electric transit buses that are currently being implemented. 7 municipal trucks. A lot of these municipal trucks are kind of the trucks that you would literally see on the road on a snowy day like today, moving snow, hauling salt. We've replaced 7 of those trucks across the state of Indiana, as well as 3 refuse haulers. All of the refuse haulers that we have replaced so far in Indiana have been diesel to compressed natural gas replacements. So we're not only are we getting newer refuse haulers on the street, we are getting much cleaner refuse haulers out there as well. We have 1 locomotive, switcher locomotive project that has been completed. This one in particular, if I recall, was about a 50-year switcher locomotive that was replaced with an all-electric rail car mover. The emission reduction potential from that project is beyond huge. And then 35 other kind of random vehicles or equipment through the on-road and non-road program have been completed and submitted to the trustee for reimbursement. Now, our round 3 projects, which were awarded earlier, well, I guess I was going to say earlier in this year, but it is a new year. Were awarded fall to winter or fall to summer of 21. Those agreements are primarily all fully executed, and all of those projects for the most part are underway. So now transitioning to the Diesel-Wise Indiana with VW DERA option projects. These are the ones that I alluded to, that in a lot of these instances, these may be industries that are not quite ready to move to the all-electric options that are really kind of dictated through the consent decree itself. One of the mitigation actions of the consent decree does actually allow the beneficiary, in this case IDEM, to use Volkswagen funds as a match or an overmatch for the DERA program. So that gives them the opportunity to do some work using, maybe replacing with clean diesel opportunities, or maybe an alternative fuel opportunity, but not necessarily required to be all electric. So through the first 2 rounds of this program, because we're going to be talking about recommendations for round 3 here shortly, we have received 18 applications. 11 of those 18 applications were awarded, and 7 of those 11 projects so far have been completed and submitted to the trustee for reimbursement. Now, rounds 1 and 2 projects that have been completed, some of the highlights here, once again, not all inclusive, but in this case, pretty close to it, honestly. We have replaced 4 excavators. We've also replaced 4 non-road dump trucks, and you'll see some visual images of some of these actually a little later in the presentation, because some of these types of equipment are also a part of the recommendation stack for round 3. Locomotives, we've seen a lot of switcher locomotive improvements here. And in this case, these were industries that were not quite ready to move to an all-electric rail car mover. Maybe the horsepower requirement just wasn't there for them, but they did move to a clean diesel rail car mover as opposed to, you know, a 40, 50, 60-year-old switcher locomotive. So again, huge emission reduction potentials there. 1 project so far of those 30 communities has been completed to date, and that was down in Jasper, Indiana. And once again, if you'll remember, completed in this instance is completed and submitted to the trustee. And we do also have 2 other projects that are completed, and the reimbursement packets have been submitted, and we'll be going through those relatively soon. Those are in North Central Indiana. Mishawaka and Goshen are also complete on the level 2 side. So here on the DC fast charging infrastructure, you'll probably recall also here, we did receive 28 applications for 135 stations across the state. And we had 4 applicants, if you remember, that were really solid statewide collaboratives. We wanted to kind of go back to them for best and final proposals. After doing that, we did bring forward a recommendation that the Volkswagen Committee approved to move forward with the Indiana Utility Group for that award. And that IUG award will give us 61 stations across the state of Indiana. They'll be installed and operational by the end of next year. And you'll see on the map here where those stations are intended to be dropped. We do know that there will be some station locations that we may run into some challenges here and there, and some of these may have to, you know, move across the street or down the road a little bit. But generally speaking, what you see on that map to the right is where we expect to see the DC fast stations end up. So we do also have 5 of the 8 funding agreements for our 8 utilities that were a part of that collaborative are fully executed and in place. So those folks are ready and willing, are ready and able to move forward with their programs. We do have 3 that are currently outstanding that are being reviewed by the utilities legal counsel. And then a couple updates that come to mind that I think are worth noting here. One of them was if you'll recall, when we first put the opportunity for applications out there for DC Fast, we were really kind of mirroring the Electrify America program. And at that point in time, the Electrify America program was installing both CCS and CHAdeMO connectors at each one of their sites. Starting in 2022, Electrify America is no longer doing CHAdeMO connectors. They are only doing CCS connectors. And if you'll also recall, the CHAdeMO connectors were primarily a Nissan specific connector, and really even more so a Nissan Leaf specific connector, because even Nissan is transitioning away from CHAdeMO to CCS. So as a part of the conversation with the utility group, as we were working through the funding agreements, it was determined that we are better served moving forward based on, for example, the fact that of roughly 20 fully battery electric vehicles that are available for purchase today, 19 of those are CCS connectors, while one of them is a CHAdeMO connector. So the decision was made that it feels very logical and very future thinking to go ahead and remove the CHAdeMO connector, and each one of our stations will have at least 2 CCS connectors. So 2 CCS equipped vehicles can charge at the same time, since that seems to be the trend of the industry. So now we can take a quick look at the biennial report highlights. I gave you kind of a snapshot of this in our last meeting also, just to sort of let you know kind of where things are within the trust. But I think it's also important to mention here that the numbers that you see in front of you, focusing on the ones on the right-hand side, if you will, are the one, they represent the financials that have been submitted to the trustee. They're not representative of the funds that are currently obligated to the program. So these are the ones that the trustee has seen. So for example, you know, I was alluding to the quote completed projects earlier are the ones that I have sent to the trustee. That's what you see here. So with that in mind, if we look at, you know, really the far right columns are kind of the biggest part of the conversation, if you will, and that is, you know, how much of the Volkswagen funding in each one of these categories is still remaining. And although these numbers may feel high, keep in mind that, once again, these are only representative of the projects that have been submitted to the trustee. This is probably well less than half of the total projects we actually have out there or will have out there by the end of the day. So you can see that we've spent down quite a bit of the environment, the on-road and equipment and vehicles category. We still have a lot of non-road funding still there, but there are some high budget projects that are currently still being implemented. So, you know, that number is going to decrease pretty dramatically here in the coming probably 6 months to a year. The DERA option, once again, these are the types of projects that we talked about that are really, they're kind of high budget, high reduction projects that can take a couple years to actually complete. It's not just going out and buying a school bus off the shelf, so to speak. And then program administration, if you'll recall, this was the line item, if you will, that we're going to be funding the education outreach and marketing program through. So let's get to our decision topic for the day, and that is the Round 3 Diesel-Wise Indiana DERA option applications. So a quick background on the applications. We did receive 13 applications for Round 3 of the DERA option. Those applications totaled a little over $4 million, about $4.3 million for the $1.8 million that we allocated to Round 3. We did have numerous repeat applicants to the program that were selected for partial funding in previous rounds. If you'll recall from previous rounds, you know, one of the ways that we would try to to share the wealth to the extent possible would be to partially fund some projects, knowing that if these are good projects and they come back and they're asking for additional funding for additional vehicles, that we would certainly be considering those. The average evaluation score in round 3 of this program was a 54.23 out of 100. As always, we're focused on finding a justifiable way to fund as many of the projects as we can. And as always, we just put this reminder in here that the options that we're presenting in the following slides don't imply that there are not other options out there. So with that, here are the round 3 award recommendations. If we take a quick look at the top left, once again, had about 4.3 million in applications for the 1.8 million that was actually available. And then just sort of a walkthrough of the color coding. Those that you see highlighted in gold are the recommendations that IDEM is making to the Volkswagen Committee for award. Those that are highlighted in green are new applicants to the program. And those vehicle counts that are highlighted in blue are partial awards. So what you see here is we are recommending for award the Indiana Harbor Belt project. And I do have some pictures on the following slides. So I think what I'll do is quickly kind of walk through these, and then the slides will show you better what these projects actually are that we're recommending. So we're recommending an award for Indiana Harbor Belt for 33 locomotive auxiliary power units. As you can see, this was our top scoring program. Irving Aggregates, we're recommending a partial award for about $464,000. Bulk Equipment, we're also recommending a partial award. Fair Alloy, we're recommending a partial award. Cleveland Cliffs is an interesting project that you'll see here in the coming slides. We're recommending a full award of that one. Ruan and Steel Dynamics, these are, as I alluded to earlier, these are electric terminal trucks. We're recommending full awards to the 2 of them. Falatovics Construction, as you can see, just like Indiana Harbor Belt, Falatovics Construction and the following Rochester Iron and Metal are new applicants to the program, and we're recommending full awards to them. Now, if you'll recall, taking a quick reminder here, the average evaluation score was 54 and change. With $1.8 million available in this round, as we worked through trying to find the best way to award the best quality projects and stay relatively near to that 1.8 million. Recall, if you will, that we know that we have some additional funds that are out there from projects that have come in under budget, or awards that have been declined or whatever. So we know we've got a little bit of a buffer there. So the total for the recommendations we're making are 1.977 million. We'll just call that $2 million. But with an average score of about 54 for all of the projects received, we felt like these 2 projects that did score 52, there were 2 new applicants. They were good projects. They scored really close to the average. So we felt they are reasonable to make a recommendation for. So here are kind of what these projects look like. I know last time the committee was really kind of interested in the pictures, because some of these technologies may be, everyday things for me, but not necessarily for everyone. So the Indiana Harbor Belt project, that little magic box that you see wrapped in that cage up there is an auxiliary power unit. In the world of diesel locomotives, switcher locomotives in particular, the reason that they are idling constantly is primarily to keep up air pressure and to keep up oil temperature. The auxiliary power unit in that little yellow cage accomplishes that task and allows them to turn that giant motor off and maintain that temperature and pressure using just that small motor. Huge emission reduction potential there. Irving Aggregates is looking to move to newer clean diesel front end loaders like you see in the picture there on the top right. And the bulk equipment application, that truck there should look kind of familiar to you. Those are monstrously large pieces of equipment. And we were able to partially award bulk equipment in the last round for that same type of equipment. And as it turns out, if my recollection is correct, bulk equipment in round 2 was the most cost-effective project of the bunch. Some other examples, ferrule alloy. They are looking at replacing an old, I think 1950s, 60s era switcher locomotive with that beautiful yellow piece you see on the top left. That's a rail car mover. It's powered by clean diesel technology, but it has the capacity to move the rail cars just like a 50-year-old locomotive does. So tremendous emission reduction potential there. Cleveland Cliffs is looking at doing something different. This is the first, this is the first that we have actually awarded through the program, so pretty exciting project. Looking at replacing a lot of diesel and maybe, I think they were diesel forklifts at their facility with all electric forklifts manufactured right here in Indiana by Toyota. And then Ruan and Steel Dynamics. They are looking at Orange EV is the brand that you see here in front of you. These are the all-electric terminal trucks that I was mentioning before. So these are constantly shuttling trailers around warehouse lots, way more efficient to do that with an all-electric alternative. And that is the route that Ruan and Steel Dynamics are moving. And you'll also note, or you may recall, that Ruan and Steel Dynamics were applicants in the past, and they want to continue this trend of replacing their older diesel equipment with all electric alternatives. Dalatovics Construction, they're moving to a much cleaner, much greener excavator that you see there on the left side. And Rochester Iron and Metal, they are transitioning away from a older diesel material handler to a brand new all-electric alternative, such as the one you see in the picture right there. So this is the point where I will turn it over to the committee for questions and conversation and discussion. I'm going to go ahead and take us back to the awards page, and I'll pass it back to you, Chair Gard.
Okay. Committee, what questions do you have concerning this? Seeing the picture of them really brings this whole thing in much better perspective for me.
I am glad that the pictures do help, especially things like, the auxiliary power units for the switcher locomotives. I know what those are. A few other people might, but most would not, nor why they really matter.
I appreciate the pictures as well, Sean. It helps explain what we're doing.
Cool.
Madam Chair, this is Kay Nelson. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Kay.
Hi. Yes, pictures are worth 1,000 words. And even though your words are very descriptive, Sean, the pictures really do help. In keeping with our ethics ordinance that we were required to comply with at the beginning of our time on this board, as I look at this document and I see the number of Lake and Porter County awards being proposed, I will be abstaining from the vote. I didn't know about any of these in advance, but I'm just going to clarify that at this point in time. I have no questions concerning the presentation. Thank you.
Sean, with each of these, do you have an estimated lifetime of those particular technologies?
Yeah, I mean, every type of technology within, if you'll recall, part of the process that we use is we use US EPA's diesel emission quantifier to actually calculate what the NOx emission reduction potential for each one of these projects is. And in needing in the process of inputting the data there, we do ultimately have a pretty good feel for what the lifespan for a lot of these vehicles are. But I think it's also worth noting that even though let's say, for example, Indiana Harbor Belt, these APUs, you know, maybe an APU on the average is valid and operational without any significant maintenance for, say, 7, 8, 10 years. That's not going to be the case in every instance, right? Irving Aggregates, you know, they're looking at doing some front end loaders. I know that, you know, generally speaking, a front end loader can be out there for 15, 20 years, isn't a bad lifespan. So we have a pretty good feel for what the lifespan of these different pieces of equipment are. The only ones that I would say that we don't have a firm or a real good grasp of are those things that are the all electrics. Because this is, it's not new technology, because most of this is actually proven technology now, but it's new to us, if you will, within the agency. So, I mean, everything that you see here, if I'm looking at this list, there's nothing here in my mind that isn't going to be operating for a minimum of at least probably 10 to 15 years. And that would be, I'd say, the minimum on each one of these instances.
This is going back to the charging stations. Can you make that same statement for the charging stations? Or when we were talking about those and you talked about they've changed the technology that they prefer just since we've been doing this, it occurred to me, gee, how long are those going to last?
Sure. Yeah, and you know, that is a tough question to answer. I mean, manufacturers can give you a better feel for that, but I think what's probably most relevant for our conversation is what the contractual obligation is. And the contractual obligation is that these will be, the electric charging stations will all be up and running for at least 5 years with at least, I think, 95, 97% uptime. That is a part of the contract that each one of our IUG partners are signing on to. And I think it's also worth noting that one of the other benefits that we did see in recommending and ultimately the Volkswagen committee approving IUG as our DC Fast project partners moving forward is kind of their investment in the success of a program such as this. So I do believe that, you know, as the technology improves, gets better, changes, especially on the DC Fast side, you know, we're engaged with a partner that's going to be ready to make those changes towards the future for their own reasons, not only because of the contractual obligations. I hope that helps a little.
Yeah, it does. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions on the round 3 award recommendations?
Sean, Jody here, just curious, would there be any feedback that you'd want to give about the threshold here between the ones that were awarded and the ones that weren't, and any guidance you'd offer to projects that were not able to be funded in this round, or at least were not able to be recommended in this round?
Yeah, you know, truth be told, you know, all these projects are solid projects. The tough part in doing this business is you kind of have to draw the line somewhere. And we have found, and I think the Volkswagen committee has kind of, you know, sort of endorsed the concept of the average score kind of becoming roughly where we draw a line. And if we look at those that are not being recommended for award in this instance, honestly, I mean, I wouldn't say that there is any great or specific guidance that I could share with them, other than they're in competition with other projects, and sometimes other projects simply are going to score better, or they're going to have greater emission reduction potential, whatever it might be. Those same 4 projects in a previous round could have ended up in the middle and been recommended for award, because every round is going to be a little bit different, because it's all a matter of the competition around you. The one thing that I would say is probably worth noting would be project fuel type for the projects that ultimately are not being recommended for award. Three of those 4 are diesel, and being, I guess I would say somewhat notably below the average overall score, and being diesel powered, kind of hard, to make a recommendation in comparison to the competition that they had going for them. Does that help?
Very good.
Thank you. Other committee questions, comments?
Sean, just real quickly, the technology from the Indiana Harbor Belt is kind of impressive and interesting. Do you know where that motor is made, or where that technology comes from?
I don't recall. I did a little bit of research on the particular brand. I mean, I will say locomotive APUs are by no means new technology. This is actually really quite older technology, because it's such a simple solution to a large problem. That being, you have to run something to keep air pressure and oil temp up. So where exactly those are manufactured, I couldn't honestly say.
That's okay. Yeah, no, that's okay. I was just wondering, with the Progress Rail locations in Indiana, it would have been, really interesting if that was coming through that ecosystem. But I appreciate it. No problem.
Yep. All right. Anything else for me? If not, Chair Guard, we're open to a recommendation on how to proceed.
Yes. We normally have, if we recommend on, we've been taking them as a group, haven't we?
Yes, the tradition has become, if we're not looking to make any changes to the recommendations, that the motion made is just to approve the recommendations of IDEM as presented.
Do I hear a motion from a committee member?
So moved. Sorry, I was trying to find the buttons.
Okay, is there a second?
Seconded.
Is there any further discussion on approving IDEM's recommendation for the round 3 awards? Oh. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? The recommendation is to approve IDEM's recommendation for awards, and the vote was unanimous.
Madam Chair, can I be on record as abstaining? This is Kay.
Yes, you can. Thank you, Kate.
Mhm.
Okay, the next item is round 3 DARA option applications.
No, that is what we just finished. We are
Oh.
racing through the day. Now
Yes,
we're all good. So now we just
Yeah.
touch a little bit here on where we are.
The
I'm sorry?
2022 in perspective.
Yep. Our 2022 schedule of milestones. Here's kind of what we see 2022 shaping up to look like. Round 3 DERA option awards announced today. We appreciate your conversation and approval of the recommendations, and we'll proceed accordingly. In August of this year, we are intending to come back to you all with a targeted round 4 RFP for the remaining Volkswagen funds. At this time, as I've sort of touched on, we've got funds that are obligated, funds that have been submitted to the trustee, lots of funds in lots of places. By August, we are hoping that we'll have a pretty good feel for what funds are going to be available for a targeted round 4 request for proposals. So we'll be bringing that to you all in August is the plan. And then about a month later, we'll intend to put that RFP on the street. And then in December of this year, which it almost looks like December outside right now, we'll be coming back to you with targeted round 4 award recommendations for your review and approval. And then in essence, what that really shakes down to as far as a meeting schedule, meeting in August to look at the targeted round 4 RFP, and then meeting again in December to make awards from that round 4 program. And this would be the opportunity for any additional questions or comments you might have of me or anyone from outside for public comments.
Sean, one question I have, at what point are the responsibilities of this committee finished?
Well, it's a really good question, and this may be a really good indication of that. If we find that after this targeted round 4 RFP goes on to the street, and we feel that, that our goal obviously is to shoot for a 0 balance, but there are going to be things that happen. So, I think that'll be one of the conversations that we will probably want to have in August or December. Would be, for example, if there's only $110,000 remaining in the trust, does the committee want to continue to convene on that, or would the committee prefer IDEM just to, have a plan for it and move forward and just let them know? So it is very feasible that the obligation of the committee could be completed by the end of this year.
Okay.
The one thing that I would like to mention too is that during the September committee meeting, it was discussed that we would probably still convene meetings of the committee in order to debrief you on the status of implementation, particularly for the electric charging infrastructure project, so that you're aware of what the implementation status is, as well as what the usage of the equipment is.
Yep.
And the committee can decide how frequently they would like to meet in order to get those types of updates, whether that's twice a year or once a year.
Or I guess the committee, even going farther, if the committee wanted to make those in the form of formal meetings, obviously we're happy to do that. If you want to do it a different way, we're open to that as well.
Well, committee members be thinking about that, and we'll put together a plan in the August meeting. Are there any public comments from attendees? I can't see the hands.
Here, let me stop sharing the screen because this slide in and of itself really doesn't do anybody any good. So let me go ahead and do this, and let's get some faces back on the screen.
That's better.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, I don't see any hands raised or anything in the chat.
Okay. Do committee members have any comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. Kevin Whitehead did raise a hand.
Okay, Kevin, do you have a comment?
Sure. Well, I had a question, and is this the time to ask that question?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm Kevin White of the City of Carmel, and I know Sean and I have had several conversations. If there is money left over in the future, will we be able to apply for another round of grants for EV chargers or something along those lines?
Kevin, it's a great question, Kevin. And actually, it's one of the things I did mean to allude to in one of the previous slides. I'm not going to share the screen and waste everybody's visual on it. But if you'll recall, on the DC Fast map, for those that recall the DC Fast map in particular, there is a notable gap of DC Fast locations between Indianapolis and Northwest Indiana. And we have had some internal conversations about the possibility of looking at targeting some DC Fast locations there to sort of fill in that gap. But no decision has been made how we would proceed with that. But yeah, there is likely to be that possibility, I guess is the best way of saying it.
Okay.
Sean, could I, this is Bill Baranik.
Hey, Bill.
My recollection from the beginning was that the trust fund made only one recommendation that was a hard recommendation. And that seemed, I recall, that was a hard cap on the number of electric charging stations we could devote the money to. So if there's money left over that you're talking about, my understanding it would have to be within that, whatever it was, 15% or some hard number. They said we could not devote more than that to charging stations.
Yes, you're absolutely correct, Bill. It's 15% of our total 41 million. So the funds that I'm talking about as it relates to charging infrastructure are just what are remaining within that 15% carve out.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill. Because I actually thought that was the least amount we could spend. So that's fine. Thanks.
No, unfortunately, that's the hard cap. Consent decree did not draw a lot of lines, but that was one that it did draw.
I do remember that. Yeah. Thanks.
Yep.
Any other comments, questions? If not, that completes the agenda, doesn't it, Sean?
That does complete the agenda to my recollection. Scott, did we miss anything?
No, that is it.
Well, if that's it, Commissioner, do you have anything?
A great one to start on. It's real quick and easy.
We didn't want to be too hard today.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything. I just appreciate everybody's participation today, all the committee members, and then as well as all the folks from the public and interested parties. Thanks for being here, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay, well, does anyone have a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion to adjourn. Kay Nelson.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Well, we are adjourned. Thank you, item staff, for putting this together.